I don't know why, but the word juicy's like stuck in my head. I've got to be like honest about it. It's like it's deep inside my brain right now. It's just like juicy, juicy, juicy.
So juicy. Where did it come from?
Dude,
What was the thing? Here's the thing. I do this all the time. Like for me, it's songs. I'll hear something that will just trigger me to just start singing, just random songs. And it'll be like anything that you can fucking imagine. And all the time my wife gets pissed off because I just won't stop. It'll be like, oh, today I heard this one line that kind of sounded like a lyric to whatever it is. And like,
it's not even the actual lyric. It's just like, it kind of sounded vaguely like it.
Yeah. And my brain, I'm just like, all right, got to start singing this. And I'll just keep saying the same thing. And then usually I get tired of saying the same thing. So I'll then start doing what I usually do with songs is just make fun of them and like switch words around. And usually it's something that's very immature and, just something really stupid. Usually about like poop or something dumb. And so my wife will just very similar. My wife will just look at me and be like, where did you hear that? Why are you doing that? Just like, stop it. But you can't stop, won't stop, once you get on that train, you gotta sail with it. So today is a juicy day is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I literally said bouncy and then it was just like juicy. Like it just got stuck in my head and I don't even know why at some point. You know what? I'm gonna be honest. Like, I feel like I'd look really good in a pair of those like velour pants that say juicy on the butt. Just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would look good.
What color are you going for? That hot pink?
Okay, I've actually realized, like, this is a pink shirt, by the way. I've realized that I think pink is my favorite color. I'm going to be honest.
Pink's a great color.
It's a fucking fantastic color.
I'm on the same spectrum with you because I love purple. And my niece is always like, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, purple. And she's like, but that's a girl color. I'm like, that's not a thing. I'm like, stop.
Yeah, no, it's so weird because it's like, I feel like throughout my childhood, I've always enjoyed the color pink, but it was always something like, nah, guys can't like pink. Like, that's not a deal. And and then there was that like weird resurgence. I guess it wasn't weird, but it just randomly happened where Nike started making those shirts that said like, oh, real men wear pink. And it's like very odd. And I mean, I didn't get into it then, but in like my adult life, I'm like, fuck, pink is a sweet color. Yeah. I like me some pink. Okay. Like, it's so weird. I think it's my favorite color. I don't know. I redid my Twitch overlay to make it pink. Like, I'm liking some pink, bro. I'm liking some pink. I mean, granted, taken out of context, that sounds really weird.
I know. You're just like, you're talking about juicy. You're talking about pink. Where are we going here, buddy?
But yeah, to answer your question, probably go with that like hot pink. Those ones, I mean, I feel like I'd look weird. I'd probably like if I was looking for fashion over function, you know what I mean? I would probably go with like a black or a gray because it's just like, I mean, I'm not trying to draw the eyes to my juicy beehole, you know what I mean? But like
if they find it, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's whatever. Like you get that hidden finger jutsu, like it's totally fine. It's whatever. Like, did you ever watch those episodes of Naruto?
I don't watch Naruto.
Okay, well there's like there's a thing in Naruto where Kakashi, their teacher, gives them the hidden finger jutsu, and if you didn't know, he pokes them in the butthole. And I didn't like. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think it was weird. Like it never crossed my mind as a kid. I was like, oh, he's poking him in the butthole. Like, haha, that's funny. But then when you really think about it, you're like, that's like a 20, 30-year-old man just poking. He literally pops up out of the bushes or out of the ground and pokes a child in their butthole. Like, that's actually really disturbing. And we're like, nah, we'll get over it. It's fine.
It's just anime things,
Yeah, it's whatever. Like, I mean, I don't, like, I'm not in Japanese culture, so I'm not going to judge them for that, but that's definitely weird. It's definitely weird.
I don't know. Maybe in Japan, everyone's just poking each other's buttholes. Maybe that's how they do it.
Hello and welcome to IndiePod, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week we are bringing you a solitary one news story before, of course, we hop in to News Cram, God bless the crowd, and answer your listener questions. But before we get into any of that, I would like to introduce myself, Vaughn, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average, Josh Boys. How you doing today, Big Josh Boy?
I'm doing well. Today is a solo cup kind of day.
Oh shit! You ditched the water bottle and you're back to the solo cup?
We brought it back. It's currently got to be washed. It's been a while.
Oh, okay. You know what's weird? I'm gonna be real honest, and this is just gonna show like how disgusting of a person I am.
You're like, I've never cleaned this bottle.
Yeah, I bought this water bottle at Walmart like a year and a half ago, I think.
Ooh.
Never washed it. I don't think. I don't think I have. Yeah, it's definitely gross. Like when I think about it, I'm like, this is gross. And I'll look at it and be like, I should wash this. And then I think about it again. I'm like, it's fine. It's whatever. Like somebody definitely like, they probably rubbed their butt on this bottle, and I'm just like totally chill with it.
You're just like, whatever. I'm just like drinking out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it at Walmart, so it's like, you gotta expect somebody's rubbed their butt on it.
Probably. That's what I do when I go to Walmart.
I mean, you do live in Florida. Like, I would assume almost every surface in Florida, somebody's butthole has touched it. Is that a fair assumption?
I can't deny it.
Okay. All right. Sweet. You, like, go to a park, you got, like, the picnic tables, you're like, it's probably, like, 10 buttholes touched this today.
Probably. That's just how we roll.
I get it, dude. I get it. It's cool. Like, my wife the other day, I think, said she might want to go to Florida, and I was like, why?
Because I'm here, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be sweet to see Big Josh Boy, but literally I like stopped in my tracks because she's always talking about how she wants to travel to different places. And for our honeymoon, we were planning on going to Japan and stuff. Yes. I mean,
that's probably why.
She likes Disney, but I don't think she ever actually brought up the Disney World thing. I think it's mostly because of the serial killers and weird shit that happens in Florida. You know what I mean?
She wants to soak in that history.
Yeah, she's like, I want to see where that homeless guy ate that person's face. Like, that's what I'm here for. Everybody's thinking she wants to go to like fucking California Adventure or whatever. That's actually, I don't even know why I said that. That's in California, obviously. That was fucking stupid.
Why not?
What's the Disney one that's in Florida? Is Universal Studios in Florida?
Yeah, Universal Studios is in Florida.
Okay,
Universal is in Florida. Disney World is in Florida.
Okay, Disney World, because there's Disneyland in California, and then World in Florida.
World in Florida.
Ah, okay, okay. Have you been to either?
Yeah, of course. I live in Florida. They're like right around the street. For me,
you just go there like all the time. You're like, actually, that's where I go for lunch most of the time.
No. I have a buddy who, so they're up in Orlando, which is like a 2 to 3 hour drive for me, depending on how fast you're going, really. But like, I have a buddy who lives in Orlando, and he would do that sometimes because you get an annual pass if you live up there, and you just walk in and you're just like, I'm just here for an hour because why not? Because I got to take advantage of it, right? But yeah, I've been to Disney World. I've been to Universal Studios. Another good one is up in Tampa is Busch Gardens, which is literally like, it's just like all roller coasters. Like that's their whole big thing.
They just got a shitload of roller coasters. They're just like
a ton.
Yeah, just people throwing up everywhere.
Like,
it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe we will eventually go to Florida. Seriously though, like I'm so terrified the second my foot leaves the plane, boom, snake bites me. Like,
chomp. No, you don't need to worry about snakes. If you're not going in like the Everglades or in like a foresty area, like it's a normal area.
you're like, there's alligators aren't on every corner, dude.
Yeah, they're not. Well, sometimes they can be, but
I know. I love those videos of people stopped at stoplights and there's just an alligator like sitting there, and they're like.
But it's a rare occurrence. Like that's not like the norm. It's not like every day. It's just like, every other day. That's fine.
I mean, I do also, like, one of the funniest things is, are you a pool guy? Like, you ever think, like, maybe when we'll have kids, we'll get a pool, kind of a thing?
No. So I'm not a pool guy. I love the pool, but I don't want to take care of one, is why I'm not a pool guy. I'm a community pool kind of guy. I'm like, I'll go there, you take care of it. There's no way,
I want the, 1,000 butt soup. I want the banana, not banana,
I'll take it.
Fucking Band-Aid floating in the water. Like, that's what I want.
I'll take it. I'm not paying for that. Dude, do you know how expensive it is to have a pool? It's so pricey.
Probably a lot.
Like not even just like getting the pool, because obviously it's much more expensive to buy a house with a pool, but like maintaining that is thousands of dollars a year just to keep that running. Like, and you probably use it, like, realistically, like, come on now, you probably use it only a couple of times throughout the year, and it's not worth it. Just community pool it up, man.
You won't even get like one of those inflatable pools.
Yeah, I mean that I would, because that I could just like pop and just put away whenever
I
honestly,
I like the idea where you're like, you don't deflate it, you just stab it with a pocket knife, and you're like, I'll get a new one next year.
I mean, I'd rather have a hot tub, but my wife would not want one. But used to have a hot tub when I was a kid at my mom's place, and it was so good, man. I love hot tubs. They're great.
Just like spice up the deal. Be like, we could, do stuff in the hot tub. Can't get pregnant in a hot tub. It's impossible.
It's true. I've done it before. She didn't get pregnant that time.
So the reason I brought up the pool thing is because like every time I see videos, so my wife really loves this YouTuber who lives in Florida, and she's like a family vlogger. And she currently is like this person is looking for like a new house, and every house that she looks at that has a pool has like that creepy ass fucking Jurassic Park fencing around their pool. And I'm just like, what the shit? Like if you live in a place that's like you have to keep wild animals out of your pool, I don't understand why you have a pool. Like, it's fucking weird. Just don't get a pool then.
Nah, I mean, it's not always because of that, but in some places it is. Like, most people will have just generally a fence in that area that's just a normal fence that keeps them out. Like, if I was to have a pool, I'd have to have like a weird little encasing just to be like, okay, my dog can't drown in here because if I look away and it just decides to jump in, kind of a thing. But
yeah, dude, pools are fucked up. Like, fucking animals drown in pools all the time. It's like weird. It's creepy, actually. But this is about mini games. So let's get into our housekeeping. Of course, be sure to check out our new developer interview going live this Wednesday. That's one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes. This is with Flipfly LLC, the developers of Whisker Squadron, the like soon to be the upcoming somewhat like roguelite Star Fox-esque game, which looks really, really interesting. We've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, so be sure to check out that one going live this Wednesday, which I believe is the 12th. Yes, Wednesday the 12th of this month. Gonna check out that Whisker Squadron developer interview. Please check out the IndiePod store over on Teespring. We have a link to it in our Twitter, which is just at IndiePod. You can also go to thepodnot.com. That's our website. There's some merch links. There's like 4 buttons that you can use to get to our merch. Very easy. You can, of course, also head over to our YouTube. Please check it out. It is IndiePod. Just over on YouTube, you can watch these episodes. Technically, I always want to say as we record them because that's what everyone says, but that's not it.
That's like not it.
5 days after we record it.
Maybe one day it will be, but not today.
Yeah, not today. Absolutely not today. Just too lazy for that.
Unless you want to just click go live on OBS right now, then we can just do it. Why not?
Just start it in the middle of the podcast.
Just be like, we're doing it now.
Please leave us reviews on any platform in which you can do so. Specifically, iTunes supposedly helps us out. I don't know if that's true or not. And lastly, thank you so much to all of our patrons at the $3 tier or higher. And of course, just thank you to anyone who would give us any money on Patreon in general. But gotta be sure to say the $3 tiers. So we got John. That's it. Can't say anything else. We'll see Mixamatosis, aka Mix, who just followed me on Twitch, by the way. What's up, Mix? Cool kid. Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, always drinking tea, Josh Nichols, that they're active Josh, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being patrons. You're all so amazing. And Big Josh Boy, you have been playing Oddventure. Are you just playing the demo by Infamous Rabbit? Just the demo?
Just the demo. It's all I got today. Honestly, okay, because before we get into Oddventure, dude, I am just addicted to Isaac.
To Binding of Isaac?
Binding of Isaac is literally eating my life.
I don't know why you don't talk about it on the podcast, dude. There are definitely some peeps in our community that want to hear you gush about Isaac.
I can't, dude. I love it. It's so good, man. And every time I feel like I get to a point where I say, maybe I'll stop. Like I got other things to do.
It's an addiction at this point.
Yeah, dude. I unlock like a new character who's so weird, and I'm like, I gotta play this. I gotta see how this. Like, I just unlocked a character yesterday, and it was the one that I was playing with before we started recording, and it is the Tainted Forgotten. And with the way these tainted characters work, there's one for every normal character that they created. And it's like, I wouldn't say it's like a reverse of who they are, but it's a weird take on that character. And it's usually like a broken version of it. But this character, literally, you normally have it where the Forgotten is a character that is like this skull person he's just like skull and bones. And his main attack is to just whack people with a bone, which is totally different because usually
cool.
you're crying at people.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
like projectiles.
Yeah. So you have this guy who's just a skeleton, is whacking people with his boners. And then you have a button that you could press and it'll turn him into a soul that is tethered to that skeleton. So he can only go a certain distance away from it, but he can shoot projectiles. And you have like health for both and can swap between them.
That's
super
fucking cool.
Super cool character in general. But the tainted version of it that I unlocked is like you constantly play as the soul. You cannot shoot. And the only thing you could do as the soul is pick up the Forgotten, like the skull, like the skeleton, and chuck the skeleton at enemies. And then when you go to like attack as if shoot, the skeleton, the bones that are like crumbled in a corner that you just threw will smack the skeleton bone. So it's super weird, dude. You have to like run around, pick up the skeleton, throw it to a different side, attack enemies, then run, pick it back up, throw it again. Like so friggin' fun. And it is just the weirdest character. And it's one of those things where there's items in this game with Isaac where I'm always like, why would I ever use it? It's completely useless. And there's specifically this detonation bomb one where it's like, think of like a suicide bomb, like strapped to your chest kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so what you can do is you can just every couple of seconds, click it, use the item, and it will just blow up. And so you'd normally take damage and it would just blow up and act as if you were like using a bomb.
But instead, since you don't have a body, it doesn't actually hurt you?
Yeah, so what it happens is every item or thing that you use is connected to the skeleton. So you as the soul chuck the skeleton and then just keep using the bomb and you have this unlimited just giant bomb and it was
got this fucking nuclear bomb that you're just like
that you just keep chucking.
You got mini nukes? That's awesome.
It was so fun. I was like, this is crazy. And I would have like, it's one of those items that normally with every other character, I'm like, ugh, so useless. And now it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is game changer. Like the minute I get this, it's like so damn good. But yeah, I'm having a ton of fun with it. Anyway, that is not Oddventure, though, which I hate. I hate going from something I love to something that I still like, but it's no Binding of Isaac, right?
You're not flipping out about it. We've actually talked about Oddventure on the podcast before. I think I brought it up in our either 2020 or 2019 Indie Game of the Year discussion. Yeah. I had played Oddventure before we hopped into it, but I'm excited to see what you think of it.
Yeah, so Oddventure, the reason why I picked it up is, and I think I might start doing this, I talked a little bit about this on my stream the other day, I might try to do something where I start doing like every Thursday is demo day or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to do this as a demo because Oddventure just recently launched their Kickstarter. So if you're, people might be familiar with this because we talked about it, what you referenced, and also I did a developer interview that I think went live like last week.
Oh my god, I'm such a dumbass. I just realized I'm thinking of the game Reventure. You're talking about Oddventure. It's fool. Yeah. I just remembered is the developer interview. It's like the weird kind of like RPG, but with like it looks pseudo Undertale, but like horror-esque.
Kind of, yeah.
That it?
Yeah. So it's very.
I'm just a dumbass. I was totally thrown off. I did not talk about this before.
There's too many ventures. I get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a very much heavily inspired by Undertale and Earthbound style game. So it is a RPG that is deeply rooted in the idea of the fairy tales, like Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah.
And it's a story about a child who goes through their life and is doing well, and then their mother seemingly has a second child, and what the game kind of leads you to believe is that the mother lost their life giving birth to this child. That's kind of the story that it plays out for you, and then it just rips you away from reality and throws you into this like fairy tale world. So you don't know, like the way that I anticipate it, or not anticipate it, but kind of attribute this to is the person using this as an escape mechanism and going into this world. I don't know if I'm right, probably not, but that's just what you get from the start of this. Is you're in this fairy tale world, you're trying to collect your brother, you're dealing with all the different inhabitants of this world and kind of just going about your way to try and get out of this fairy tale land and get back home. And the interesting part about this is really combat. So normal RPGs, you would just attack things, you would then kill them, you'd get experience. Very much like Undertale, this is different where you're not trying to always kill them. You can do this, and it plays itself into there's probably different endings with, you know, a like pacifist run, a genocide run, whatever. But you could do two different things. You could either make the characters like happy or make them really upset. And it will either be you make them happy enough where they're like inspired and they're like, oh, cool, I'm good. Like, I don't want to fight you. Or you can basically upset them so much that they get really mad and leave. Or you can kill them. And it's all based on different things that you do. And the way this works is you have both health and mood. And so there's a long mood bar of like you being really happy to really upset. And then there's different interactions and different abilities that all play into these bars. And each character and each enemy has that type of bar as well. So you're playing into, a multi-strategy of trying to figure out how you want to best defeat a person. It's a little confusing, honestly, at this point of how much of a difference it makes to try and make someone really happy or to try and like upset them. And if there should be a difference used based on the enemy, or if there's like a rhyme or reason for it. Like I didn't pick that up really. I just kept trying to make everyone happy because I was like, whatever, I'll just go with this route. Because maybe that's part of it. I don't really know. But it was an interesting, adventure through that. And I really liked a lot of the little details. It was something that on my stream we mentioned is like while you're fighting these enemies, it's like this really creepy gnome who will end up like his main thing is to flash you. Like that's how he attacks everyone. But while he's fighting, there's a bunch of other gnomes in the background that are just like popping up and they're just like showing their face or like showing just their butt behind a tree for some reason. It's like super weird. It's very, very wacky, very interesting. And I like the story because it keeps going back and forth between this like very just whimsical world to then this darkness of like these giant shadow hands chasing you and trying to claw you down, and it plays into the fact that your mother was taken away from you, and the story to it seems unique to a point where I'd love to find out more about this. I don't know that the combat really entices me too much. I think it's a cool play on it, but it is, with Undertale you had the difference of avoiding things and you had that mini game within it, whereas this one feels more like I'm just constantly it's like a war of attrition. I'm just trying to survive rather than like doing anything actively. I'm just surviving and then trying to appease the person by making them happy by clicking like the same button over and over again. I don't know if that's going to change or what. Like maybe I'm doing something wrong and there should be more of a strategy to it. I didn't get that. So it's something that I'd like to see if so in like, the later version. But the good news is Oddventure right now is doing really well as far as their Kickstarter is concerned.
Oh, yeah. They already hit their goal.
Did they?
Yeah, I just looked at it. They their goal was $24,310, and they're currently, as of the time of this recording, at $24,559. So they're like over $200 past it, and they still have 25 days left to go.
Nice. Yeah, the before like yesterday I checked and they were at like 90% or something. So they're doing really well. If any of it sounds interesting or you're an Earthbound fan, I'd still say to check it out because it's probably going to take a lot of inspiration from it. I definitely enjoyed the art style to it. There's one enemy, if you watch my stream, there was a wolf in there and he had two tails. One of those tails just looked like a wiggly penis. It was
Oh shit, I gotta see this now.
It was real disturbing. I was like, what is that? I don't like that.
Oh shit, I gotta check this out. Wait.
It was
That's definitely a dick. That's 100% a penis. That's like that clip you see of like Dragon Ball where Goku's a kid and you can definitely see his dick. Yeah. Like that's definitely a penis.
That's
or like I guess you could say it's like a loincloth, but I'm almost 1,000,000% sure
that yeah, it kept wiggling and I was like what is happening here?
I think Oddventure looks really, really cool. I remember seeing it a while ago, just like randomly stumbling across it on Twitter. And now that I flip through their Kickstarter, the idea of like Charlie, she's like a nihilistic, rebellious girl with anger issues, but her class is a mood mancer. And she can change like reality around her. Then her little brother, the hero, is Bonzo. You've got Jack Grimm, the Mad Hatter. And then Mr. Rabbit and Dodo are anti-bards. That's so weird to me. I think it's so cool, honestly.
I might have to check this out. All the characters are very interesting. I think it definitely is shaping up and has potential and would be a really cool game. I think, some of those things I mentioned, I'd love to see fine-tuned as far as like just knowledge on the different options that are out there. I think they need to flesh that out a little bit. And then I think they need some censorship on those wolf penises. But other than that, I think it's great.
Nah, that's fine. It's good. It's fine. Nobody needs to worry about it. No, this looks really, really cool. And I've always found Grimm's fairy tales to be really interesting. Not saying like in any way that I've read them. I just have always found them interesting for the most part. So I personally think Oddventure looks really, really cool. I might actually back it on Kickstarter. I'm not. It's like $19 to get the game. I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that right now, especially because the Mass Effect remaster is coming out in like 2 days.
I pre-ordered it. I got it.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I'm gonna go through the whole trilogy because I only ever played the first one, and I was kind of lukewarm on it, but I've told this story before. It's just because I had just come off the high from KOTOR and I didn't like the combat, but I'm gonna give it another chance since everyone seems to love it, and we'll
nice.
See. Not that we can talk about it on this podcast, though.
Yeah. Sadly, it won't be. I don't know. I like.
No. It's not an indie game. We can't be doing this.
This crazy indie game called Misi Ficht. It's really good.
We just have to. It's fine. We'll wait for one of those days where the Active Quest crew is like all sick for some reason, and it'll just be me and you. It'll be like
just
a weird.
Steal their fucking show.
Yeah, but no, like we won't say a single thing. We'll just be like, "Welcome to Active Quest." Josh and Vaughn here. We're going to talk about Mass Effect today. And just like, let's just tape a whole episode and just send it to them.
And then give it to them and just be like, hey, I've heard you're having episode troubles. Here you go.
Here you go. Just slip this one in next time.
That's awesome. That's good. That's a good idea. I like that a lot. So for me, I am delving back into a game that I tried to play like pretty early on in our like indie pod run. So I have been playing Dead Cells by Motion Twin and Evil Empire. I'm playing this like I kind of got like burnt out on Temtem for right now. I'm just like I didn't want to play any more Temtem. And I tried to play Disc Creatures, which is it's very odd. It's like a love letter to old school Pokemon, but instead of like capturing creatures and evolving them, you fuse them because they're actually on discs. Did
you talk about this one once before or no?
I think I've never played it before. I might have talked about it just like randomly off the cuff, like it's coming to Steam or whatever. But
right, okay.
And I mean, well, there's also one that at least I get it mixed up with. Sometimes is Cassette Beasts is also a thing, but it's like that one's different, and I'm actually really, really looking forward to it. But so I played a little bit of Disc Creatures and couldn't really like 100% get into it. It's pretty weird. Plus, I cannot figure out how to play the game in full screen. It's basically like a 10 by 10 window. Like it's this big. That's all you get. And I was like, can I not make it bigger? Like I don't understand. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a dumbass, but I couldn't find it. I literally like there's not even like settings available. It just is audio. So I was like, how do I do this? But
that's rough.
Yeah, I started off with Disc Creatures, and I was like, okay, I'm not super into this right now, so instead, I needed to find something to play during my normal workday, because that's first world problems, I guess. And I was just scrolling through Xbox Game Pass, and saw Dead Cells on there, and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling some Dead Cells right now. I gotta hop in. I gotta play. And ooh boy, I'm having fun. Okay.
Nice.
It
All
is
right.
so much fun. Well, now that I figured out like how exactly my play style is, I found it like perfectly and I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. So I walked through. I was kind of shooting through the game, trying to figure out my way, my play style and everything. I
Making your
tried
way
out the
downtown?
shield. What'd you say?
You said making your way downtown?
Yeah, walking fast.
Walking fast?
I'm actually homebound. Did you know that?
All right, let's go.
So I had like tried playing with the sword, I tried the shield and stuff, and I enjoy the idea of the bow. You actually have to like the arrows don't just replenish themselves. You have to have like a certain amount of time away from monsters for them to replenish. I thought that was kind of cool. And then I eventually got the grenades. And I was like, fucking game changer, dude. The grenades are my favorite. So my preferred build is to go like a fire grenade, like basically a Molotov, and a bow. And I basically will just, and so I do three things. I went fire grenade, a bow, and I would also get the turret, like little artifact that you could use. And specifically, there's one form of the turret that's really good that will cover the ground in oil, and when it detonates, it will actually light. When it dies, it will light the oil on fire and start burning everybody. But since I have the fire grenade anyway, I could just burn it already. And so it would pop on the ground, cover everything in oil, and it's not even the ground that it's just on. It's like all of the ground within the fucking frame. At that point, like my entire monitor, every bit was covered in like oil, and I was like, what the fuck, whatever. So I just huck a bomb up there, it lights on fire. I cleared through like so many areas just doing that. And honestly, I really love the game. I think it's got really, really fast and fluid combat. I like the addition of the Metroidvania bits where it's like, I got a couple different power-ups. So, like, I mean, I got runes for, like, the challenge modes and the custom worlds, which I haven't even tried because I just want to play the game, like, normal. But then I've also gotten 2 runes that unlock additional places and abilities. So, like, how you'd find the slimes randomly throughout the world, and normally you just, like, give them the good pat-pat, you give them the tickle. Then you get a rune that actually makes them grow, and they become like these like ivy branches that you can climb up. I got that. I also got the teleportation rune. So I think I've only fought one boss though, and I've fought it like 3 times. It's a very easy boss. The first boss is ridiculously easy, especially if you like there's like the doors that you can get in if you are fast enough getting to the next stage, and it's like 2 minutes in the first stage. I've never gotten one of those. Like the closest I got was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I was like, fuck. But I have gotten in the ones with killing people because I basically just run through and I'm like, I'm just going to go through everything in this place. And I like over level myself basically. And I just got like ridiculously powerful going into the first boss, and I have like 3,000 health, and it's like trying to hit me, and I'm like, bro, I don't even need healing right now. Like, I'll just burn you to death over like 20 minutes. Honestly though, Dead Cells is super fun. I think it's great. You've played Dead Cells, right? You initially liked it. Have you ever gone back to it?
No, I played it so much when it was in early access, and I kind of burnt myself out. It's the typical Josh always playing early access games, and then when it comes out being like, I played a bunch.
I got my fill.
Which like, and it's not to say it's a bad game. I loved Dead Cells, but I've put in so much time. So
Gunfire Reborn is going to get its 1.0, and you're like,
and I'll probably dip. We've already gotten to a point where we don't really play it anymore, and we're just waiting for new content now because we exhausted that game by quite a bit. I mean,
no way.
I mean, I played it so much, dude. It was like every other time.
Yeah, you were always playing it.
Yeah. It was, but now I got Isaac, so. Now I've got Isaac and Divinity too, dude. I got no time.
Yeah, that checks out. Right now, I'm continuing my whole, like, trying to finish games that I didn't complete. Like how
Yeah.
I beat Dark Souls 2, and I'm trying to, like, complete more games. So
You hit me up when
I'm,
you do a renew of Hollow Knight.
dude, I
Because
really,
I'll do it. I'll do it with you.
I want to actually beat Hollow Knight this
Yeah.
year. I really want to. I think that's going to be the game I hop into. Either, like, okay, so the game I went back to is Greedfall by Spiders, and it's like a huge RPG, so it's going to take me a while to get through that game. But I do really, really want to beat Hollow Knight in 2021. It's like definitely a goal. Granted, we're 5 months in. We're almost halfway through the year, and I haven't even started, so pretty
We'll
far
see about
behind.
that.
But
when you start, you let me know, and I'll start a new file.
okay, we could see who gets through it first, I guess.
Probably
you.
in a race.
Probably you, because I can't cheese that like I can cheese Neo. I can't just
No.
poke people with a stick.
No,
Like,
that game is tough.
it is. I'm looking forward to playing it though. But you know what I'm not looking forward to? This news story, Big Josh Boy, because we basically covered everything that we're going to talk about. These are the games we've been playing. So let's hop over to Twinfinite for our first and only news story. This is written by Tom Mayer. I don't know. I'm going to go with Meyer because it sounds cool. This is Super Zoo Story dev addresses Stardew Valley comparison. So this is kind of like a twofer story. I didn't include the initial story that was about Eric Barone Concerned Ape, the developer of Stardew Valley, talking about it, but it also kind of talks about it in this one. So we'll just talk about this one. The
good.
developer of Super Zoo Story, an upcoming open world zoo simulator with RPG elements, apologized on social media after people noticed the game looked too similar to Stardew Valley. The apology comes a day after a fan asked Stardew Valley creator Eric Barone, known as Concerned Ape, his thoughts on the pixel art indie game after believing it to be an expansion or a knockoff, which I still have to say I really hate the use of the word knockoff. I really despise it. But moving on. Barone said he had no issue with games inspired by his, but said it's very confusing to people because it looks too similar that...
It does look so similar.
Oh, it does look so similar that it could be mistaken for my own work. Ihor, I believe is how you say that. Not exactly sure. I probably butchered that. Co-creator of Super Zoo Story wrote on social media that my wife and I are heavily inspired by amazing games like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, and we assure you that it was never our intention to copy art from other games. However, we must agree that some of the art appears similar to Stardew Valley. Also, the other games thing, it's not what... They didn't bring it up in this, but there's also they're being accused of lifting assets from not only Stardew Valley, but also a game called Graveyard Keeper, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Sometimes as passionate developers, we get tunnel vision. It becomes hard to judge ourselves objectively, he continued. I personally confess to being defensive and, as a result, lashing out in an inappropriate manner. The co-creator said that any and all assets that are too similar to Stardew Valley would be redesigned, and we'll post updates about the reinvented art production and design. Super Zoo Story has no announced release date or platforms it is coming to, but I mean, you could pretty much assume that it's going to come to PC and Nintendo Switch first. I'm just going to go out on the limbs here, and this is probably what's going to happen. So, Big Josh Boy, there's, of course... I have like a little bit of a handicap because I've not played Stardew Valley, so I don't know what a lot of the assets and stuff look like. That's a hill I'm going to die on. I'm never going to play that game. But I do have to ask you your opinion. How closely do you think Super Zoo Story resembles Stardew Valley?
So I haven't played it either. So I can't...
You've never played Stardew Valley?
No, that's not
I thought you have.
No, that's not my style of game. But
What?
what I can say is I've seen a bunch of comparison, like side-by-side screenshots. And this game looks super close to it. Like, not even funny.
I mean, there's like... The only thing I kind of hate about it is that unless it comes specifically from the developer posting it for Super Zoo Story, I'm like, there's that little bit in the back of my mind where I'm like, is this actually, like, there are certain screenshots that I'll see that I'm like, is this actually in the game, or is this just something that people, like, they brought in assets from Stardew Valley to show how close it looked? Because I saw one that people were talking about how they just basically, there is this idea that the Super Zoo Story developers actually lifted assets specifically from Stardew Valley and the trees specifically. And I was like, I don't see it. Like, I looked at a bunch of different screenshots and stuff for the trees of Stardew Valley, and then I ended up finding one that I was like, yeah, that's the exact same tree. Like, that looks like the exact same tree. And they've been accused of not only taking them from the game itself, but from its mods, like its mod community. So I'm not exactly 100% sure. Like I said, I haven't played Stardew Valley, seemingly neither has Big Josh Boy, but we're just going to operate under the assumption that hopefully they did not steal anything. I guess.
Well, there's some things where you're looking at it, like there's a screenshot from Graveyard Keeper specifically, where they show the actual graveyard.
Church.
They show the image, and then there's a screenshot of Super Zoo Story basically saying like, oh, redesign of a church. And it was like the old version, which is a legit copy of what Graveyard Keeper's graveyard was, and then new. And then it's like their version, which is what the church is now. And granted, if you look at it, it's very similar, but they did change things, right? Like they used that asset and then redesigned it. And there's a lot of similarities. And so like, I guess you can say like, hey, that's not okay, kind of a thing. But at the same time, if it does look different, even if you had something that you started with, a template, like it's still different, right? Some of these aren't as easy because it's like one piece of it, there's like a stand that's just on the right side instead of the left. And you're like,
yeah,
come on, you got to do something different. But then you look at it and you're like, okay, well, the entire front half of it is different. The doors are different. The top roof is different to some degree where pieces are missing and changed, and the color palette has changed. Like, there's things in this where this is a real gray area, right? Where this is not this is a clear cut, rip and paste into their work, but they're getting pretty close, I think is the issue. I think the problem with this, and I didn't see what they originally had stated and why people got so pissy about this, because obviously this is an attitude
me
thing.
neither. The whole like we handled it in like an lashing out in an inappropriate manner. I haven't seen that. I don't know what they did.
Yeah, that I haven't found, which I'm sure that's obviously why this is rubbing people the wrong way, is because of them just being shitty about it. But also, like, they're making up for this, but like, would they have done that if they weren't called out by Concerned Ape? Probably not. This would have just gone live, right?
Yeah, so back to like the church thing I wanted to talk about. If you really get into it, the church, like the original design of it, compared to the Graveyard Keeper one, there are differences that you're like, okay, it's not exactly the same, but like the one person points out, you can't deny art theft. Apart from removing some of the greenery from the roof, these are near identical.
Wow.
It's pretty true. And then the redesign of the church, it's got like different colors. It does look different. So granted, they changed that, like that's cool, but there are like several instances where it very much seems like they kind of stole shit. And it's very odd. Like and I think it's kind of weird how well Eric Barone is taking this for the most part, where he like, in another news story, they had said that like he was seemingly like irked by this, that he was not too happy about it on Twinfinite. And then when you actually read what Eric Barone said, he said, well, in general, I've never had an issue with people making games inspired by Stardew Valley. After all, my game was inspired by Harvest Moon. But I do think Super Zoo Story has taken it a little too far, and their attribute or attitude about it is rubbing me the wrong way too. If they actually ripped any of my assets, I am not okay with that at all. Naturally, that totally checks out. Even if they haven't, I think they should take the time to come up with their own design, their own style. As it is now, it's very confusing to people because it does look so similar that it could be mistaken for my own work. And it's like literally somebody did mistake it for Eric Baron's work. So it's like that's proven it can be mistaken for Stardew Valley. There are certain things that people have pointed out, like that the Mary character in Super Zoo's story is a ripoff of the, I think it's Maru character in Stardew Valley.
Right.
It's once again where it's like it looks similar because it's just like a person with glasses, but there are a decent amount of changes to where I'd say, like, I don't think that's a huge issue, but there are some things, like, people have brought up that the overall style of design looks very similar, the color palette looks very, very similar, and just one of the things that people seem to be outraged about is is not necessarily their initial issues, like this developer initially coming out for Super Zoo's story and being kind of a dick about being called out about it, but instead their overall lax nature of saying like, oh yeah, our art assets look similar to that of Stardew Valley and stuff like that, where they seem to get close to the line of saying that they might have like stolen art assets or that they basically copied Eric Baron's art style. But then a lot of people seem to be annoyed that they're not taking responsibility. They're not saying that they actually did it or that they're necessarily sorry. Like, I think one person said, this isn't an apology. Your game doesn't seem similar to Stardew Valley. They are the same because you straight up copied them, including several assets from mods. Your color palette is identical. Your characters are the same. The environments are the same. This is deliberate theft. I can't 100% say that it is actually theft. Seemingly, there is a lot of similarities, especially with the color palette and overall design. And some of the trees, like I said, not knowing if those are straight up, like, if they are actually screenshots from Super Zoo's story, I don't know. But that's also kind of telling of the problem, that it's like, your game looks so similar to Stardew Valley that I'm like, I don't know which one is Stardew Valley and which one's Super Zoo's story.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a muddy waters type of conversation, but this definitely, and we want to obviously give people the benefit of the doubt and try to not just attack someone because we don't know the full story of it in a lot of situations with this, but like, damn, does this seem like they are in the wrong? I don't want to just say flat out that they are, but like a lot of this stuff just looks like they took it and they just like rolled with it, which good on them for being like, oh, you caught us. We're changing shit, but like also shouldn't do that in the first place. And it goes to my whole point of like, if there wasn't this backlash, would they have just gone with it and tried to sell the game? Like,
I mean, there are a decent amount of people that are saying that they actually wanted, like, this is just conjecture. But there seems to be like a consensus in this kind of outraged community of Stardew Valley fans that seem to think that the Super Zoo story, like, creators wanted the outrage so that they would get eyes on their game. Because outrage, like, let's be real, sells games.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's a lot of people, I wouldn't have known about Super Zoo's story unless it wasn't for this article. I would have never, my whole life I would have gone and I would have been just fine. And I would have never known about it and it would have been okay. But now I know about Super Zoo's story and how they're apparently shitty, but maybe not. But like now it's on my radar as a game that exists. So yeah, I mean, if that was their intention, like they got it, but I don't know. Because you're always going to have people who side on either way of it, right? There's going to be the people who hear about this and they're like, oh, a zookeeper game that's kind of like Stardew Valley? Like that sounds like my jam. Like I want it. Yeah. Right? And, maybe, whatever, like if that's what you want, like it's going to show up eventually. But it just sucks because, yeah, it's clearly... very closely, and like inspired is fine, but it's so close to a point where it's dangerous. And I don't really know. I feel like it's a pretty terrible situation when these kind of things happen, and it's hard because you can't say with pixel art, you can't say like, oh, you own the idea of pixel art, but like you could have at
Everyone kind of
least
has their own
changed
style, though.
yeah, you could have changed the color palette. Like, come on, man. Like, it's way too close.
Yeah, the color palette thing is pretty weird. I mean, there is one thing that I want to bring up that I feel like is an apple and oranges scenario to this, because I feel like somebody eventually is going to say it, is going to bring up the comparison, like us talking about Enchanted Portals v Cuphead and
Yeah,
this
for sure.
is that Enchanted
It's different
Portals
assets, though.
versus Cuphead is not stealing assets or anything. It's just they both use the same style. And it's like,
Yeah.
Cuphead didn't create it. The rubber hose style existed beforehand. Cuphead just made it. And like, sure, Enchanted Portals riding on the coattails of what Cuphead made popular now. But I would say it's an apple and oranges scenario to what's happening right now, because pixel art is way different than what I would say like using a rubber hose style of animation is. It's pixel art is so easy to make your own style in, especially when you talk about like 16-bit, which I'm fairly certain, or 16 to 32-bit pixel art, which I'm fairly certain that I'm not exactly sure. I might be talking out my ass. I know it's not
No way to
8-bit,
know.
but
No way to
what Stardew Valley and Super Zoo Story would be. But there's just so many ways that you can make your own style. And seriously, I have like massive respect for Eric Barone for being like, I mean, I'm not saying you lifted any of my assets. If you did, don't. Like, that pisses me off. But the kind of just like, no, not being outraged about it, not being a straight up asshole, or wouldn't really be an asshole, because if they did, it totally checks out. Yeah, it's warranted, I guess. But being like, I would recommend you just try to make your own style. Like, that is such a human move, like such a human take on it, and not being like, I'm this god video game developer that sold millions of copies kind of a thing. Instead, he's just like, I understand being inspired by something. I was inspired by something. Everybody makes mistakes. If you copied my assets, that pisses me off, but just make your own fucking... Make your own style, which I totally appreciate. I hope when we get an update down the line of Super Zoo Story, because you know that people are going to follow this shit now.
Yeah, for sure.
This is definitely... People are going to have their eyes on it, which is going to annoy some people because they want to just bury it, because... That's just the way things happen, I guess. But
everybody's got a dog pile on it.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, we're going to be following this story. And I hope down the line in Super Zoo Story, we see this game look entirely different and the developers found their own style.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, I'm kind of wondering, like, if their idea of outrage marketing is really going to pay off, because there are like a decent amount of people that will now know about this game and purchase it, whether like they'll know about the game because of the comparisons to Stardew Valley, and they won't give a shit if they lifted assets or anything. They're like, hey, I want more Stardew Valley, I'm going to play fucking Super Zoo Story, whatever. I don't care if they were pieces of shit. And then there are also a decent amount of sales that they're going to miss out on because people were annoyed about this. But it's also like, you can't exactly say that you were guaranteed those sales anyway.
Right, because no one might have known about it. It's tough to gauge that market.
It's all weird. Like, this is such a weird scenario where it's like, if they redesign, like, I guess... Morally, I want to ask you a question. If they redesign everything, and I know this isn't your kind of game, but that's why I'm just asking like a hypothetical moral quandary. If they redesign everything, the game looks different, still obviously inspired by Stardew Valley, but has its own style. Would you be okay with purchasing it, knowing that this kind of stuff happened? Or would you be on the side of like, they might have stolen assets? That's a move. Like, art theft is not something I can condone, even if it's just the like hypothetical art theft, because there's nothing confirmed here. There's no actual 100% they stole anything.
Right. Yeah, I think because we don't have a good gauge on, yes, they obviously did it, it's leaning towards it, but as long as they go in and they fix everything as far as making it their own and changing it and just redesigning the game, like then I wouldn't care as much, right? Then it's fine. It's a slap on the wrist and like it's screwed up that you did it or that you potentially could have done it, but I don't know for sure. And also, I believe in trying to give people second chances in that regards. That being said, I would never play this game.
Yeah, me neither.
But like, and also the thing about this is, we're judging it based on a version of like the vision of what it looks like, but we don't know what it plays like, right? Like even if it did take those assets, it might be a totally different game. And as far as like the things that you can do, and maybe that's enough. And then, also changing up the graphic side of it would be like, oh, it's still a totally different game now. Everything's fixed. So then like I'd be more okay with it. It's just really crappy right now.
I mean, honestly, when I first came across this news story, I was like ready. I was thinking this was going to be an Enchanted Portal scenario, and I was ready to defend Super Zoo story. I was going to be like, honestly, like, I mean, there are certain people. There are people who are like, I didn't even notice that they look the same until you pointed out. I'm like, really?
I mean, some of them I could see. Like, it depends on certain things. Like certain things, I'm like, yeah, they altered it enough where it doesn't look like it. But like other pieces, you're like, that's way too close.
Oh yeah, like there are certain things like people have said the font is the same, and I'm like, it's not. It's not the same font. Like, it's the same color, but it's not the same font. Yeah. Like, their color palette is the same. Let's be real. Like, that's the same. Whatever. Like, there are only so many colors. Who gives a shit? Like, that's just weird. Granted, just branch out a bit, but whatever. But yeah, I get what you mean, but there are, like, a lot of people who are just like, I wouldn't have even known. And it's like, okay, you're being, like... Let's be real. If you really did look at both of them, you'd be like, okay, I see it. Like, I get it.
How much are they paying you to say that?
Yeah. It's like the alt account. They're just like, are you this iHorror person? Is that you?
Might be.
They like their account on Twitter is called like Super Zoo Story Rules.
Yeah.
With the Z, and you're just like, so suspicious that you of all people didn't notice it. Them. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to condemn them because I don't know if it's straight up art theft. It seems really weird. But I'm glad that they're committing to changing it overall. Granted, they were never going to get my buck anyway because it's just not my kind of game. Mm-hmm. But I would say I totally understand both sides of the argument. I understand why people would say they won't purchase it. And I understand why people like want to give them a second chance like down the line. I get it both ways because like you don't want to falsely condemn somebody for something that they didn't do, but also like if they did it, you don't want to back it. I totally get it. I'm not going to try to sway people either way because it seems like a really weird gray area, like you said.
Oh, well. Anyway.
Whatever. I guess we'll find out down the line what that's all about. But it is time for us to hop into News Cram. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of IndiePod and Indie Games Podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week, we have one quick news story for you before we hop into some new deals and quick steals and a whole bunch of new stuff. So, our first quick news story for this week, or for today, it's our only one actually, comes by way of IGN, where it's reported that the 23rd annual Independent Games Festival has been announced and will be taking place on July 19th through the 23rd. Technically, the news story I grabbed for our stuff was about the nominees, but I was like, that's a lot of different categories. We will cover this when they like whoever wins, because that'll be like an easier way to cover it. But I just wanted to point out Indie Games Festival. It's happening July 19th to the 23rd. I don't know if you can watch it, honestly. And if you can't, just keep an eye on whatever comes out of it. Seemingly, I mean, there are a lot of indie games that were actually nominated that I had no idea about. So that's kind of something that I'm excited for, is to see who actually wins these different, like the different grants and the different awards. Like, I think it looks really, really interesting. And there was also a news story about the Tribeca film festival, now including games. and how they were actually including games that were like games that could possibly be good. Like that was the idea of including them, were like games that have a lot of promise. But they weren't games that were out, so that's like Sable was included in that, which I think Sable looks really cool. And it's the first time that they've ever, I'm fairly certain the first time they've ever included games in the Tribeca Film Festival, so it's like, now it's the games category. It'll be interesting to see who wins that, and we'll talk about it when it happens, but I just wanted to bring those up. They existed, but in a sense, it wasn't really a massive amount of news, so I didn't want to talk about it until we've got finalized. These are the people who win. We'll talk about it then. Now on to some new deals and quick steals. Our first and only deal of this week comes by way of GameSpot, where it's reported that the open world action adventure game Pine by Twirlbound is completely free on the Epic Games Store, but this deal will only last until May 13th, when it is scheduled to be replaced by adventure game The Lion's Song by Me Poo Me Games, GmbH, because I don't know how that's actually meant to be said. So make sure to follow us at IndiePod on Twitter. I'm going to make sure I tweet about this so that everyone can pick this up and they can get a chance at this new deal or quick steal to get Pine for free. Because, of course, this is actually, these episodes go live on Fridays and these change on Thursdays. So...
Yeah. Bad time.
Be sure to follow us at IndiePod. But our patrons, they're just going to be like, get that fucking free game.
Be like, all these free games are so cool.
Yeah, dude. Do you see the news story that came out that Epic said they spent over $11 million on free games?
Isn't it
That's
nuts?
fucking crazy.
Yeah, I wish I had $11 million.
I know. Even if I had to spend my $11 million on giving out free games, that would be so cool. Like how many games you could highlight, like how many indie games that you could give people. Oh, that'd be awesome.
The IndiePod giveaway.
But you're like, I mean, I was just talking if like, I wish I had $11,000. Not that I would have to give it away. I just wish I had 11,000. You know, or
I said 11 million.
11 million. Yeah,
way less.
I mean, also wish I had $11,000. Just saying.
Yeah, I guess.
So now, on to some new stuff. Our first 6 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that visual novel Winds of Change by Clace is headed to the Nintendo Switch on June 3rd. I don't know 100% if that's technically a visual novel because it seems to have like RPG elements. Not 100% sure, but it seems to have like a lot of inspiration from the furry community and like fursonas. So looks very interesting. If you're into that, check it out. That's Winds of Change. And it's also already available on Steam. So you could pick it up. It was like came out in 2019. That minimalist RTS game, Death Crown by Cosmonaut and Stas Pizarev, I believe it. Pizarev? I don't know how you say that. Is headed to the Nintendo Switch on May 13th. That's like really cool, by the way. The minimalist art style looks awesome. If you're into RTSs, I'd highly recommend checking it out. The top-down 2D Battle Royale game, Super Animal Royale by Pixile, is headed to the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch sometime later this year. That roguelike action platformer Non-Guns Doppelganger Edition by Brainwash Gang is now available across all platforms. That one looks really cool. I would check it out. I would recommend checking it out. That horror game, Absolov, I believe is how you'd say that. Absolov End of Gods by Angry Demon Studio is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime this summer. And lastly, that indie game publisher P-Cubed is bringing top-down action game Quantum Replica to the Nintendo Switch on May 14th, adventure game 7 Years From Now to the Nintendo Switch on May 28th, and 2D puzzle platformer Evergate physically to the Nintendo Switch on June 4th. That one's pretty interesting. It's got like a cool keychain of the character, which I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
I don't like the design of, and I'm kind of sick of seeing Evergate. Like it's, we've gotten like 1,000 emails from P-Cubed about it. Stop.
They want
Like
us
it's cool
to-
that you included us on your mailing list, but you send out like 85 emails about that game. Stop.
They want us to know.
It's a lot, dude. About that one game.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
They're really trying to push it. It's the new game of the future.
Maybe.
Millions will be talking about it. Perhaps 11 million.
Oh, There you go. There you go. Now over on IGN, where it's reported that action RPG Stonefly by Flight School Studio is headed to the PlayStations 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC via both the Epic Game Store and Steam on June 1st. Super excited about that. Looks awesome. Now over to The Gamer, where it's reported that racing game Art of Rally by Fun Selector? I don't know. Fun Selector Labs Inc. is headed to both PlayStations 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and the Nintendo Switch sometime this summer. The game looks amazing, but I was so bad at it. I tried to play it. I was like, I'm going to give my thoughts on it. I was like fucking, what's his face? The shitty guy from Tokyo Drift. When he can't do anything and he's just like on the docks running into shit. Like, I was so bad. I just couldn't talk about it. And that the popular deception game Among Us by Innersloth has announced their partnership with Limited Run Games to produce a physical collector's edition of their game, which will come with a steel bookcase, which is really cool. I love me some steel cases. Soundtrack, reversible poster, and more for a mere $79.99 with pre-orders live at the time of this recording. I think they went live on May 11th, or the 10th. Which should be today. So, wait, no, that's not the time to describe. I don't fucking know. They're live. You could go get it. There's a button you could get. It looks really interesting. I don't know. I think it's weird that they didn't actually include one of the like astronauts, like a plush of it or something, because that's normally what they do. But also, we actually reported it. GameStop is going to be selling those plushes, so there's that.
Maybe.
And to round out the group over on GameSpot, it's reported that fighting game Skullgirls Second Encore by Hidden Variable Studio is getting a new fighter. Her name is Umbrella, and she is scheduled to hit all platforms, including mobile, sometime in 2021. She's got a really gross, demonic-looking umbrella.
Yeah, it's pretty weird looking.
Looks very fleshy. Not a fan. I would even say it's a juicy-looking umbrella, big boy.
I would not.
So, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie game news stories that it's time for us to give back to the creators. In our next segment, God Bless the Crowd, this is where the biggest of average Josh boys hops into all sorts of crowdfunding sites, finds something for us to talk about, and we do just so. This week, we're once again headed over to Kickstarter to talk about a game called Elementalis. Would you say I said that right?
I think so.
Okay, I don't fucking know. Our Google Doc and Grammarly refuses to let it just be that word.
Because it's not a real word. It's like, otherwise it would have to be Elementalist.
Yeah.
But I guess
wouldn't that be funny if that's what they were going for, but they accidentally misspelled it and they're like, well, we can't change it now.
But even then it wouldn't have two L's, so I don't know.
Whatever. So this is a Zelda-like and elemental magic gameplay. Explore a vast world and conquer the dungeons to restore all the elements. Use them to solve puzzles and defeat your foes. This is for PC and consoles. The initial goal was $21,879 at the time of this recording. They have $52,818 with 961 backers and 23 days left to go. This is developed by Ivan Ruiz Lozano. I mean, there are also other people that we'll talk about at the bottom of the Kickstarter. They also list them. Let me get there so I can talk about it, so I could point them out. So we've got Ivan. The pixel artist is Luan Nguyen Trong. I'm so bad at this. I don't even know why I'm choosing to. The composer is a guy named Raul. This is more than one person. That's all I wanted to say, is that there's more than one person making this game. To get it on the ground floor and actually get a copy of the game, I believe it is $19. Yeah, $19 to get a copy of the game. They have two tiers before that's like exclusive backer updates and Discord channel for
and
$2.
A postcard.
And then and $7 to customize your reward, which is the postcard as well as those other two, which is a little weird. But then for $19 USD, you get a copy of the game. So Big Josh Boy, give me your opinions of the Elementalis.
Maybe. I like 2D Zelda and I like magic. That's pretty much it.
Really? Okay.
I think this looks really cool. I do like the because it's, there's a lot of Zelda-likes out there, and it in many ways feels overdone, I'd say. But usually there's certain things that find a way to spice it up, right? And that'll be something like I can't remember the one that we recently talked about that was a Zelda-like, that was like a capybara that you had as like a secondary person, and it was like a it reminded me of like the Goof Troop game. We did a developer interview with them too. I should really remember this, but it's fine. They're great. You should go check them out. I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. Anyway, point is, Zelda-likes get pretty overdone, but I do like the way that magic works in this game, and the different effects, and the fact that you can combine them, and the fact that they're like trying to do this with like puzzle solving and exploration. I think the combination of that can make it really interesting. And yes, you could argue that it's just a way to say, oh, Zelda just has different items or whatnot, but it's a different take on it. Like, this is the same idea, right, of what we just talked about earlier, of like, is this blatant ripoff? Because, everybody who has a Zelda-like has the same type of like grass and foresty areas and dungeons. I know,
that's
right?
what I was thinking about too.
Yeah, right? Like, yes, but no. But I do enjoy that they have all these different types of elements. So like wind, you can dash through like open areas. With fire, you can light torches. You can also burn down a bunch of these bushes, which I love, because one of the things I hate about Zelda is when you have to walk by and slash at every single bush, and you're like, this is so time consuming. There's a gif of here. They're just throwing a fireball. It just burns them all down. That's
you know what's
perfect.
actually really funny? The game that you were talking about is called The Girl from Arcania. That was the game with the capybara and stuff like that. And I'm on their Twitter right now, and they've actually retweeted like everything that the Elementalis has put out on Twitter.
See, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it looks a lot like it. That's so true.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Is Zelda-likes very much all look just alike. It's like Zelda. So it's an interesting that we use this one for that discussion. Anyway, I think there's some really cool things that they can do here. I like the fact that there's combining, like the combination of elements. So there's a image here of someone using a water element and putting water on the ground, and then using lightning to actually shock the ground and the enemies that are there. Like, that kind of stuff is what makes this interesting. If it was just you having an item and you being like, oh, I use the fire to light a torch, I'd be like, yeah, it's pretty similar and there's nothing too crazy about it. But I really like that combination part to it, where it doesn't just become you're a Zelda character with these random elements. It's more of you're this magician who has to use those tools to do whatever in this world. I think it looks pretty good. I think for $19, it's not that crazy. I think Zelda-likes, you're usually going to get something that's pretty good based on like what I'm seeing here, at least. Because it's not like from a development standpoint that they have to go too crazy out of their way, or like, like something's going to go wrong, but we'll see. I guess it really depends on how well they do with level design and whatnot. I don't think there was a demo. I wish there was, because I'd love to see some of these elements or see it in action.
Yeah, there is one.
Oh, there is one?
There's a section that says play the demo.
All right, well then, you know what? Maybe that'll be my Thursday demo day, and I'll play this.
That would be cool.
Yeah. But I do like that they have what seems to be a good amount of content, because there's like 8 dungeons, they say. They have a bunch of secrets and enemies and bosses, 8 different biomes. So obviously that goes with the dungeon idea. So it looks like, there's a good amount of content in this. Experience a story about growth and overcoming guilt. Don't know much about that, but maybe that piques someone's interest. I don't know.
Well, seemingly, if I remember correctly, the story is about like you are the son of like an elemental mage or an elementalist, and they did something to actually like scatter the elements. Like, they fucked up the world, and you're trying to repair it. So I think that would be where that guilt comes from.
Yeah. I'm just saying, maybe that's like, I don't care too much from a story perspective, and I don't know how much they'll really go into this with a Zelda-like, but maybe it's got a great story. I don't know.
Dude, you know what's so weird? Just proving that this is the smallest fucking world. So, like, how the girl from Arcania thing, and I just started thinking about how the Elementalis, like its cover art looks so similar. Like the art style to me looks so similar to something I'd seen before. So I was like, I'm pretty sure, and it turns out I'm fairly certain that the artist that we're trying to get to make our indie pod merch is actually the same person who made that. Their name is Marcel. They're over on Twitter. They're an awesome artist, and they've got like this really interesting style that's like very similar to like Scott Pilgrim, and they do these really, really cool watercolors. And it's just so weird how you keep seeing the same shit. Like it just randomly pops up. Oh yeah, here it goes. Here's our new cover art done by the talented artist. Yeah, so it is by them.
Yep,
That's so
there we
weird
go.
to me. Oh my god, the smallest world. It's awesome though. So my thoughts on the game itself, because I haven't said anything about it, just how weirdly small our universe is. I think the game looks cool. I'm not a fan of 2D Zelda. I don't like it. This is something that's come up before, specifically with Stardew Valley, which is kind of funny. I don't like it because of the attack animation. I don't like that weird swinging sword in front of you, how it just looks like a floating, like, phantom blade. Like, I don't like that, but I will say that this game looks really, really interesting. I like the combination of the elements like you were talking about. I liked the mixture of using the water on the ground and then using lightning, which you'd assume does additional damage. I'm not 100% sure.
Looks like it stuns them in some way.
Yeah, well, I thought that, but then it also says that the lightning ability just does that. And I was like,
oh, okay.
that's a little weird. So I wasn't 100% sure. But they have thought about some different ways to implement some of these abilities. Like the water elemental actually encases you in a bubble. And it's like a shield. And when it pops, then it turns out that like when it pops, you can actually like put out fires. Seemingly when it pops, it's also like an environmental hazard where it slows people down. Like that does seem really, really cool. And I would like to see a cool mixture of them. Like possibly making somebody wet and then freezing them, or using using like seemingly that weird clover one that I'm assuming is nature, and mixing that with like the fire spirit, or just like the wind and fire to create like somewhat of a fire tornado, or to like increase it because oxygen actually fuels fires. So I overall, I think the idea of mixing elements is very, very cool. And I would also like, I hope you do this as your demo so we can talk about it and you can tell me if you get to like mix them and how exactly that works. But my favorite thing about this is just your elemental companion, that like little sprite. So fucking cute. I love it. I will admit the only one I don't like is the like seemingly nature one that looks like a clover. I don't like that. I don't like the way clovers look. I think they look stupid.
Bouncy, wiggly penis there at the bottom.
No, I do. Well, I mean, I like it. But I don't like it. No, it actually like now that I'm looking at it, it's pretty phallic and it's way too cheery for me, for my taste. You know what I mean? I like them sad dongs. So no, I love this spirit. I think it's so cool. I really like the idea of all of it. It's not like, I'm not saying I'd never play this game, and I'm not saying I don't like it. I actually love a lot about this game. I'm just not a huge fan of like the 2D kind of like isometric old school Zelda style. So maybe it'll be something that I pick up as like on a sale, because like games that I'm not 100% sold on, that's typically how I pick them up. It's not an insult to the game in any way or saying that they're not worth my money. It's just like, I don't know if I'll like this game. Yeah, like I have no idea.
It's not your normal genre. It makes sense. It's not
forever. Exactly. But the enemy sprites look really awesome. I actually really do like the pixel art. I enjoy the like candle boss. I think that looked really cool. Yep. How it's just like this creepy maniacal candle that spawns other candles because they like melt the wax and shit like that. It like spawns them. That's really cool. But overall, I don't have a massive amount to say just because I'm not a big fan of this game, to like this style of game. Yeah. I mean, the plushie looks really cute though. Like if we're going to talk about physical rewards, plushie looking dope as fuck. And they have a collector's edition that comes with like a poster of that sweet ass art I was telling you about. Trust me, check out this check out this art. It's awesome. It's sweet. Like, I like it a lot. But yeah, that's mostly all I have to say, except for I would totally get that plushie. Like I would buy that plushie.
All right, well there we go. Go get the plushie, everyone.
Exactly. Big Josh Boy, do you have any last notes you want to hit on for Elementalis over on Kickstarter?
No, I think we covered it. I think if you're a Zelda-like fan, this is probably one to check out. If not, maybe still worth it to check it out, but it's all good.
Yeah, you never know. So once again, that's Elementalis, a Zelda-like with elemental magic gameplay that is over on Kickstarter. So check it out. I believe they have like 25 days left to go. They still have quite a long time. It's already funded, so of course you don't have to, but they have some cool stretch goals, and they've already hit a few. So be sure to hop in, get some cool shit, get the game, get a postcard, I guess.
Why not?
Developer updates, whatever. On to our questions from the audience. Number one Kingdom Hearts fan, wonder who that is, writes in and says, "Hey there, played Kingdom Hearts at all? Yes or
why or why not?"
Oh, why or why not? Okay, that totally threw me off because they also didn't say played; they said plead. Like
plead?
It's an I, it's not an A. Yeah, plied, stuff like that. If not, you suck. Bye. So, Big Josh Boy, have you ever played Kingdom Hearts?
I've played Kingdom Hearts. I haven't plied Kingdom Hearts though. I don't know what that means. You'll have
that's
to.
Good. Well, I mean, like plied toilet paper. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Like you got the couple layers, like 3-ply.
Got that Charmin Kingdom Hearts. You know what I'm talking about? You gotta use the bears.
Dude. There's this weird people who like 1-ply, and you're like, man, poop hands. You're a little weirdy. Like, I always attribute like that.
I always attribute how well off you're doing based on how what the quality is of the person's toilet paper in their house.
See, and it's weird how that is like, I would agree with you, but then there's also the other side of that where it doesn't apply to businesses, because every business for some reason is just like, nah, you get like what is it, like wax paper. Like you get fucking the garbage ass toilet paper. You're like, just get like a roll of Charmin or something. Why are you being weird about it? I guess a lot of people wipe their asses there. They got to buy it in bulk, but seriously, have you played Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I've played all 3 of them.
Really?
I've played all 3 of the main lines. I've played the Chain Memories. I've played 365 over whatever days, stupid naming convention. I played a little bit of Birth by Sleep. I've played some of Dream Drop Distance. Like, I've played a lot of Kingdom Hearts.
Have you beat any of them?
1, 2, and 3 are the ones
really?
that I've beaten. Yep. I've always beaten the main lines. The side ones I usually don't stick with because I don't really care as much. But yeah, I've beaten all 3. I reviewed the 3rd one for Parallax a while back, way back when it first came out.
Am I the only one blindsided by this information?
You never
for some reason thought that you never played, like you didn't like Kingdom Hearts?
No, I mean, I don't like Kingdom Hearts. I don't like the 3rd one. I like the 1st and 2nd one. But I think the 3rd one was pretty garbage. I don't mind the story being
shots fired.
Yeah, I don't mind the story being convoluted, but it came at a time where I was a kid, and just the idea of going to these Disney worlds and these weird worlds was just so strange and like different to me. Like, I thought it was so cool, and I was a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, so being able to go to those worlds back in 1 and 2 were just such a big cool moment for me. But I also I enjoy the gameplay to it. Like, I like the weird quirky hack and slash style to it, but with the spells, I don't know.
I think how it's hack and slash, but really you're just beating people to death with a pole that looks like a key.
Yeah.
Like, they call it a key blade, but like, let's be real, that's a piece of rebar. Like, you're just beating blunt. People to death.
Yeah. They're not. There's no cutting through. There's just blunt weapons of getting smacked in the head with a giant.
They like
cube.
Try to cover it up. It's like, dude, Sora is beating people to death. It's fucked up.
It's fine, dude. They're just a bunch of nobodies.
That's true. Except, I mean, I guess they're like the few people who are. Well, they're also nobodies, aren't they?
They're nobodies, or they're heartless. And then there's a 3rd one, and I don't even remember that. I don't know, man. It's just fucking,
it's complicated.
Oh man, the story in that game is so dumb. So dumb.
I I honestly, like, I really want to get into Kingdom Hearts.
It's good.
Chris proposed, like, a long time ago, us doing, like, a Kingdom Hearts podcast and, like, getting the lore in there by PlayStation and stuff like that. And I thought that was a really cool idea because I really would like to play through Kingdom Hearts. Like, I'm very interested in why people love that shit so much.
Yeah.
I've only played 2, though, and technically I beat it, but it was such a long time ago that I'm like, I don't even know. Like, here's how much I paid attention in that game. I got halfway through the game, did not know I could level up. And then I did, and I just started obliterating shit.
Trying to always go hard mode, even though you can't play games.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently.
So the game, like, Kingdom Hearts is I think it's fun. I think that it's interesting. I love the idea of this whole Disney Final Fantasy weird mix of worlds. Like, I think it's so cool. I think it's very unique, but like, man, is the writing bad. Like, it's just so cringy to a point where you're like, why are you doing this? It's like ironically bad to a like, but it goes like full circle to a point where it's like, oh, it's bad again. Like, I can't, dude. 3 was so, like, maybe it was because I was younger and I was just more okay with it because I haven't played 1 and 2 again in a while. But like 3, I was just sitting there and I was like, fuck, this is rough to like listen to these people talk about this.
Dude, you just gotta let your heart be your guiding key, bro. Like, that's it. That's all you need.
Stop.
So I think we pretty much answered why or why not. Like, I would love to get into Kingdom Hearts, but one, that's such a big time sink. Like, that's just like how I want to play the Persona games, but it's like,
oh, I do too. Yeah, but
so fucking long.
I won't.
It's just too much, dude. It's too fucking much. Maybe if I didn't give a shit about the story, you know, and I just did them as like podcast games or whatever, and I just played it for the fun of it, but then I feel like it would defeat the purpose because the story is what I love the most. And even though it's like nonsensical, I still really want to know it. So it's like, I don't think I'll ever get into some franchises because they just take too long. They're
100%.
just so daunting at that point.
There's not enough time in a person's life to dedicate to every single thing. You have to be a little bit picky and choosy about, you know, like what you're going to jump into.
It's very true. It's very true. So, Philip Bradshaw, the one pedant for Australia, writes in and says, what is the worst thing you've ever smelled? Big Josh boy.
So I have a story.
Worst thing that have ever has invaded your nostrils.
So I have a story that is, I'm not going to name names, but the people who know me will know who I'm talking about.
I like how you said you don't want to name names, so it kind of makes me think it's like somebody that's like, other than apparently John. That's it. That's all I get to say.
Yeah.
Other than that person, I don't know if anyone else in this community would know who you're talking about.
Probably not. But look, if for any reason it was ever to come out, I don't want it. They can never know. So we have this one person who in our group we used to make fun of for being stinky. And there was this one time where I was walking on campus and it was me and a couple of people. And I was standing there, we were walking down, and I go, man, it smells so bad. I can't believe that there is a dumpster right next to the university, like a trash like field. Like, how could they do this? It's so gross that it's just like right here. Blah, blah. So I'm making this big stink about it. Ha ha ha. And they're kind of just going with it, right? They're like, yeah, real stinky. And then we get to wherever we were going, because I was trying to just kill time, and I was hanging out with 2 other people. And I was sitting in the middle of them, and they're in this class, and they're doing work for the class. I'm literally just on a computer, just doing whatever. And one of them needs to talk to the other one, so he rolls over and like gets right behind me, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's that dumpster again. I confused this kid for a fucking dump, like a landfill.
Yeah, that's depressing.
So gross. But to answer it in a real way, I just wanted to tell that story because that's what it jogged my memory of. It's definitely when you're in a biology lab or some kind of like science class and they want you to dissect an animal.
Dissect something?
Dude,
yeah.
When we did cats, that shit stank, dude.
Ugh. You dissected cats?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I feel actually kind of weird. So like in my I took biology, but we never actually like, I guess maybe anatomy is the one where you like really cut into stuff. But I don't think I ever actually took that class. Instead, I took like an oceans course where we were given squids and had to cut into them. And our teacher was like, he was a very, very cool guy, but he was not very like there. Like we would essentially, he's like, okay, we're gonna dissect this squid, and then everyone would just start stabbing the fuck out of a squid. They like didn't even actually dissect it. They were just like, ah! You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once again, taken out
Very
of context,
suggestive. Yeah.
But it was just so weird. And yeah, that's also like one of the worst smells ever. Honestly, like
What
no
is it?
joke.
Formaldehyde, I think is what it's called. That like stuff that they use to like embalm them or something.
Essentially like embalming fluid. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
is formaldehyde. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure though. Honestly, the worst smell is the ocean, bro. I
Really?
fucking hate the smell of
The
the ocean.
ocean.
Yeah, it just smells fucking disgusting.
Man,
like
no
everyone
wonder
is like,
you don't want
"Oh,
to come to Florida.
yeah." Like I went to the Oregon coast, like I think like 2 years ago maybe, with my wife and her family, and we like walked on the ocean and everything, and I was just like, it's so gross. I don't understand why people act like they enjoy being in the ocean. And I say that very deliberately, that people act like they enjoy being in the ocean, because I refuse to believe that anyone enjoys it. It's so gross. It's like there's literally just it's like one big toilet. It's fucking disgusting.
All right. I guess so.
Granted, humanity probably ruined it. Like, it was probably great once. But we just, like, fucking
debatable.
threw our shit in it and, you know, polluted it. No, I just do not like the smell of the ocean. Like, I don't like the smell of fish just in general. And then just combined with, like, everything else that's just in nature, you know?
Yeah.
Not a fan. Not a
I
fan.
get it.
Yeah, I'm a little bitch boy. I don't like it. Will C writes in and says, what would be the next mini console you would want to see? For me, it would be some sort of DOS console. So, Big Josh Boy, what would be the next mini console you'd like to see?
I think, well, first off, I think that that's a really cool idea as far as like a DOS console. I'd love to see some of like the older, really, I don't know what to really attribute them or tag them as, but older games like Commander Keen and the very like side-scrolly, very early PC games. Like I'd love to see something like that. I don't know how you would do that because there's nothing you could license that as. It would be specific games. You just have to be like mini PC, which would be super hard to market because people wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think, and we talked about this, and I'm basically going to steal yours. We talked about before this that it would probably be the coolest to just see a mini console that is like a GBA or some kind of Game Boy console that's like all inclusive of, you get the console that would be something like a really nice Game Boy, and it just has a ton of those, like the iconic Game Boy games loaded
What would
up.
be your preferred version of it, though? Would you want, like, a Game Boy Color? Would you want, like, just a normal, like, the original Game Boy? You want, like, a Game Boy SP? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think that, so for me personally, I think from a nostalgia point of view, it would have to be either Game Boy like original or Game Boy Color. Like that's what would hit home
Really?
more with me. Yeah, just because that's really when I played Game Boy. When Game Boy Advanced and the next like round of Game Boys, that's kind of where I fell off. Like I really just loved the older Game Boys. Like I have very fond memories of playing them on a ton of car trips and like road trips, and also hating the fact that the backlight on it was non-existent back then.
yeah, so you had to get that
You had
stupid
to get
ass
that stupid
attachment
little-
that was
yeah,
just a
dude.
light, and it drained your
so-
batteries
and
like
it was so
no
bad.
other.
And it was still so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was still just straight up garbage. And anytime the sun hit your Game Boy, you're like, I just can't see.
Like, had
you're
to
like
look-
trying
you're
to
like,
like
where?
you like tuck it under your shirt and you like get underneath it.
You're like, okay, I can kind of see it now.
Honestly, for me, so the one thing that I have to say that I don't like about mini consoles is the very select library. Like that they're like, we'll put 20 games on it, and then of course everyone else is just like, I'm just going to hack this console and put all your games on it, because they basically just put a Raspberry Pi inside a fucking NES shell. So they just hack into it and it's got everything. Like,
right. You'd think they would get around that by just being like, they're going to do it. Let's just charge them to buy each one of these individually.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who won't do that and would just be lazy and be like, all right, I'll pay the extra $1 for whatever I want.
Yeah, like I honestly, so for me, if I was gonna choose like the Game Boy like mini console design, one, I would want to have like a large assortment of Game Boy games. Like, let's be real, they'd be like, let's put fucking 10 Pokemon. I don't want a lot of Pokemon.
I don't want any Pokemon.
Yeah, if I have to have this like fucking really small library, I would like maybe like Golden Sun. I would want some like Mega Man Battle Network. Like there's a lot of different games that I would want to play. And also I want it to look like the Game Boy Advance SP. That's my favorite design. Like I love the little square that folds out and it's a rectangle. Also, I've been seeing advertisements recently for phones that are like new flip phones but also smartphones.
The Razrs?
Can you just fuck off? Let's not do that. Let's not.
Dude, it's so weird watching it because anytime you do it and you're like, I look directly at that midpoint and I'm like, how is that not breaking? What the fuck kind of magic? Like, what black magic is this?
Yeah, exactly. I was like watching it the other day and I was like, it just looks broken. Like, what's up with that?
It's so weird, dude.
Yeah, but I want so badly like a Game Boy Advance SP. I just love the design of that, and I'm so heartbroken that I actually can't find a good price, like a reasonably priced Game Boy Advance SP, because like I have a bunch of Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy original Game Boy games that I want to play, and like I have a okay, so I bought like a DSi so that I could play them, but it's actually like I bought the DSi specifically because they're not region locked and I can play games from like basically anywhere.
Right.
And I really like that. So I bought like Sora to Robo, I think it's what it's called. And I'm really excited to play it, even though I bought it like fucking 3 years ago. I really want to play it.
All right.
But yeah, it would have to be like the Game Boy Advance SP. Or you know what? I would actually like to see, like, it's kind of weird that everyone else wants shit from their childhood, and it's like at least my childhood was handheld consoles, so it's like I would also like to see a DS, but like the original one, like that really just fucking dumb looking original gray DS, like I had one and it was awesome. Yeah. And then all my friends had fucking DSIs and shit. They're all looking dope, and I was just sitting there with my like literal gray brick. I was like, it's so boring looking, but I fucking love it. Also, just the PS2. Like, we got PS1. Let's just get a PS2 up in here. Why not?
Right. That could have Kingdom Hearts. You could play it on that.
Yeah, true. I mean, no joke. I own 1 and 2 on
Kingdom
PS2. Yeah.
Dude, you are so ridiculous to me. You're so ridiculous to me. Why do you do this? Wait, what? How do you live like this?
Dude, you know what's so funny is that like I own so many physical I own so many like DVDs, Blu-rays, and physical games that since I'm moving right now, it took me, if you haven't noticed, my shelves are like somewhat bare right now.
Missing a little bit there,
it took me 8 fucking boxes to put all of them, to pack them all. And my wife came in and she's like, why did you use so many boxes? I was like, I couldn't use less. Like, I just couldn't. And I feel so bad because there's like a time when I was putting games in the box. I was like, I didn't know I had this. Sweet.
Oh my God. So ridiculous, dude.
It's just, honestly, I'm going to be straight up here. I think the reason that I do this is because when I was a kid, my parents, like, they had like 3 kids and they were always working, and they didn't really have the disposable income to like buy us games or buy us the things I wanted. So I feel like I'm making up for that in my adulthood now that I have my own disposable income. And I'm like, I always saw this case when I was a kid and always wanted to play it, but now I don't have the time to play it. So I bought it because I like the nostalgia of the case, but I'm never going to play the game. So there you go. Hopefully that answered your question, We'll see.
A plus.
And Rob from the Classic Gaming Podcast writes in to give us our results of the most disappointing game that he wrote in like 2 or 3 episodes ago. I forgot to read it last week. Well, he forgot to send it the week after. Then I forgot to read it the week after that. And now we're finally reading it. So everybody's got issues. So Rob writes in and says, 2 apologies. 1, sorry if I didn't get this follow-up in time for episode number 132. I mean, we're at like 134 now, so you didn't. And sorry my first email was fucking long. Holy shit, I didn't realize it until I heard you read it. For the scoring of my last email, Josh gets 130 points and Vaughn gets 170. Yes, I'm more disappointed than you.
I'm so funny.
Vaughn's game Destiny was slightly more interesting because it had the twist that it was it massively failed his expectation, but he still liked it. Okay, quick one this time. As a follow-up to the most disappointing games, what game did the best job of living up to your massive expectations? For me, it was Grand Theft Auto 3, Rob. So, Big Josh boy, I'm going to be honest. I didn't read this email beforehand, so I did not know there was a question inside.
Neither did I, dude. Neither did I.
So, what game, like, it just peaked, it was better than you ever thought it could be?
I guess scrolling through like a bunch of my games that I definitely enjoy, I think for me it would probably be Castle Crashers.
Did you have big expectations going into it? Like, were you a big fan of the Behemoth before you played Castle Crashers?
Yeah, because I love Alien Hominid. I was big into the Newgrounds scene back when Castle Crashers was like really coming out, and I'd listened to all of the different people who created music that were in this. I loved the artists that were a part of it. I loved Behemoth for what they had done beforehand. So this was when I knew that this was coming out. I was really excited about it, and it became one of those games that I just I sunk so much time into, to the point where I had like a bunch of really, really high level characters that you have no need to ever get them that high, kind of a thing. Like, I really enjoyed it. I loved playing as all the different characters because they had like slight variations to their magic ability attacks. Like, they had
the Alien Hominid was cool.
Yeah.
When I played it with you.
I love that game, man. And it's such a, like, because normally I don't really care for beat 'em up games, but that one was just so good. And I love so much about it. Going back to it when we did the stream, like, I was like, yeah, there's way too many poop jokes in this. Like, this is very childish kind of a thing.
Oh, it's egregious.
But yeah, it's like, it's ridiculous. But like at the time, it was just such a good game. I loved it. The fact that it's just such a good 4-player game. Like, because it's easy to carry someone who sucks. And it's just fun at the end when you have to fight each other over the princess of like.
You just beat my ass every time,
dude. That first
hit 2 hits, I was dead.
That first moment where you find out that you could do that was so cool. When we were like, oh, what? And we just all started attacking each other. Such a good moment. I love that game, dude.
So for me, it's not necessarily like, I feel like every game that I got excited for as a kid never really lived up to my expectations, or I had zero mood going in. Like, I bought Dragon Age, like, I love Dragon Age Origins so much. Easily surpassed my expectations, like, now that going back to it, knowing what it is, and, like, expecting something. But when I was a kid, I asked for that game for Christmas just because I saw a cinematic trailer. And I thought it just looks so cool. And then, of course, I got the game, and it's not at all like the cinematic trailer. Yeah. But I fucking loved it. And so I can't count that because I had zero expectations. So my living up to or exceeding my massive expectations was, and I know this is like an easy one, but it has to be The Last of Us for me. Because when I was initially a 360 person, and then my friend Chase convinced me to buy a PS3 because he was on PS3. He's a PS3 guy. So I bought it, and I didn't have any money. I didn't have enough money because this is like when I worked at Wahoo's, which is an arcade, and I spent like my entire paycheck just buying a PS3. I didn't have any money for games. So
Should have got that second job.
yeah, exactly. I know. I should just fucking worked harder. Saved my money like a normal person. But Chase, when he got his PS3, he got the one with the pack-in with Uncharted 2. And it was like that really dumb one that comes in that cardboard sleeve. It doesn't even get a case. And so he was like, I haven't played this game. I don't plan on it. So you could just have it. So he gave me Uncharted 2. I played all the way through Uncharted 2. Absolutely adored it. And then like I did something that still pisses my mom off, and she refuses to buy me any video game related item because I took all of my 360 games and I traded them into GameStop so I could get PS3 games. And I bought all 3 Uncharted games, and I bought some other stuff as well. I can't remember 100%, but I bought Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. And I played through them all. I sat down, and within like a couple days, because I believe this was during the summer, and like I didn't have to go to school, I just had to work, and I was still just working part-time, so it was nice, you know, not having to adult. I played all the way through 1, 2, 3, so fucking good. And then watching the trailers, like I watched that Last of Us trailer over and over and over and over again. I was so fucking excited about that game before it came out, and I'm so glad that it exceeded my expectations because I purchased The Last of Us and I started playing, and I played it all in one night. I played through the entire game that night. I picked it up at their like midnight release, played it all the way through. And I was like, I think it was like 4 a.m. when I eventually went to bed. I don't know if I actually picked up their midnight release, maybe the day after. But yeah, I eventually went to bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was just so satisfied with the experience. Like, that's easily my most, like, exceeded my expectations.
That's cool. Uncharted is another series I just never got into.
Really? I love Uncharted.
I tried playing the first one and I got through it, and at the end of it I was like, I don't like this. And I just didn't go through.
Yeah, I mean, I really like treasure hunter epics and stuff like that. Like, I love Indiana Jones. I love Sahara. I love The Mummy, which actually do you like The Mummy, the series of movies with Brendan Fraser?
I mean, it was okay.
Have you gone back to watch it recently?
No, why would I?
It's on HBO Max. I went back to watch the first one, and I'm not even going to hint on like the bad special effects because it's just like some shit doesn't age well.
Yeah.
But there's some hardcore like low-key racism in that movie.
Oh,
like the way that it frames like the Egyptian people is really, really fucked up. Like at one point in time, they literally compare them to camels, but then they're just like, Americans are fucking dope. And it's so weird. Like, I never noticed it when I was younger watching these movies.
Right, of course.
And then I watched it and I was just like, this is so fucked up.
Yeah. And also, yeah, there's a lot of shit where like if you go back to watch different forms of media, it's just like a whole different landscape when you think of how the shit that people got away with saying like back in the day is ridiculous. I don't know.
It's fucking insane. And it's like, I'm not a massive advocate for PC culture. I don't like cancel culture. But I'm a normal fucking person who understands comparing an entire group of people to camels is not cool. And the things that they were like, it literally the scene I'm talking about, they're like, yeah, this guy's like, yeah, I hate camels. They're stinky. They spit. They're just gross. And then like the only Egyptian character that is with them does all those things in that scene. And I was like, that was obviously just this low-key, really fucked up racist joke.
Yeah.
Like, it was so messed up. I was like, oh my God. And it totally, like, it kind of ruined it for me, where I was like, I was actually looking forward to watching these movies, and I don't want to watch anymore because I'm afraid to find out that they're actually racist.
Yeah.
It is just so fucked up. Like, I just ruined my own fucking childhood, dude.
Yeah,
But
that's how it works.
There you go.
Anyway,
Yeah,
great way
I'm just
to
a big
end
fan
this,
of like.
you know?
That's also the reason I love Nathan Fillion. By the way, it's just for some reason he's like not. I loved him as Malcolm Reynolds in Firefly, and then his just constant association with Nathan Drake. Like how in the movie everyone wants him to play Nathan Drake, even though he's like in his 50s.
Yeah.
And I'm super glad Tom Holland is actually playing Nathan Drake because I think a young Drake is really cool. But yeah, dude. I love the like modern treasure hunter, so Uncharted was super awesome and I was so excited. Eventually got into The Last of Us. Fucking loved it. It was so good. Last of Us 2 came out. I'll never play that game again because like I'm not saying it's bad. I adored Last of Us Part 2, but I will never play it again just because it fucked me up. I'm like, that's an experience I don't need to go through again. I'm gonna be honest. So
One
there you
day I'll
go.
play it.
Massive expectations fulfilled. That is the end of this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening. If you would like to chat with us outside the show, you could do so in a bunch of different ways. You can be sure to follow us at IndiePod. So just INDIEPOD over on Twitter for notifications of when our episodes go live, our developer interviews, chatting about indie games news, and of course the new deals and quick steals that you can't actually get. There won't be on time, I guess, when we actually put these episodes live. Make sure to follow us there. Check out our thepodnot.com website for our merch links, our Patreon links, episodes, all sorts of good stuff. I am including links to our main news stories in those posts over on our website because I don't really have like, yeah, I don't have a cap on descriptions. So be sure to head over to thepodnot.com. You can follow me, Vaughn, at Hyde Legion. That's HYDELEGION over on Twitter for all of my dumb bullshit. Check out my Twitch streams on Saturdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Playing some Neo right now. Got my ass beat by a boss. Like, granted, I was like, I'm only going to try it once, and then he just immediately fucking stomped my dick into the dirt. It was hilarious.
Oof.
So be sure to check those out. You can follow the big Josh boy at _George90. Check out his Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/the_George. Do you have a schedule for that yet?
Not really. I'm thinking if I do end up like really going for this, it would probably be Tuesday, Thursday nights at like 11 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still in the works of getting my shit in order. So not yet, but that's when I'm going to try to do stuff.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. So there you go. Be sure to check out, just randomly got to go through our housekeeping one more time. Check out our Whisker Squadron developer interview going live on the 12th, I believe, which is Wednesday. That's with Flipfly LLC, the developers of Whisker Squadron. Be sure to check out the IndiePod store over on Teespring. Soon to have some more merch. I've been working on more designs, and of course, we're going to have somebody actually make us some cool new designs. Check out our YouTube channel, which is just over on YouTube. It's IndiePod. Super easy to find. Fuck me, I just opened up my scab again by taking off my damn Band-Aid.
All right, then.
Please leave us reviews on
Please
any
leave
sort.
your Band-Aids on your arms.
Be sure to do so. Don't let them fall into public pools in Florida or Josh will eat it.
Oh, that looks pretty bad. Yeah, that's a bad scab.
Yeah, you bad scabby.
No.
I actually so I picked at it. That was actually like a freckle, and I picked it off because I'm a dumbass. So
It's big dum-dum.
I picked it off, and then I didn't even think about it, and I went to bed, and I woke up the next day, and like there's just giant blood spot in my bed.
Gross.
Yeah, it sucks. Be sure to leave us reviews on any sort of platform in which you could do so. Specifically, iTunes helps us. And lastly, thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons at the $3 tier or higher. Thank you to everyone who listens, patrons in general, but gotta be sure to thank those $3 patrons. John. It's just John.
It's just John.
Nothing else. We'll see. Mixamatosis, aka Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Imp of Australia, Chris Penwell, I was drinking tea, Josh Nichols, aka Active Josh, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for listening, and join us next week for some more Indie Pod. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I don't want to get blood on my pink shirt.
Oh, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. Unless you bleed pink. Juicy pink.
I wish.